to this 49er cap conversation and also the win now roster. It's not so much Jimmy or Trey. It's how comfortable are you with the idea of handing this win now roster over to a young player. Let's go to Jay in San Jose on with Willard and Dibbs. Hey, Jay, what are you doing?
What's up, fellas? I just took a little early lunch break. Is it too early?
Never too early. Never too early.
Here.
Okay, protein and vegetables. Go.
Right, cool. I love it. So I think this is easy for me. I think you go with Trey, and for two reasons and two reasons only. So we've seen Jimmy at his absolute worst. We've seen him as average Jimmy, and we've seen him what we think is peak Jimmy. I don't think Trey is going to play for a whole season as bad as, let's say, Jimmy at his worst. I think he's got a much higher ceiling with what he can do. And then secondly, I think it's about maximizing Kyle Shanahan. Clearly, he has a whole separate playbook that he's been dying to use with a quarterback that can run the ball, that has maybe a little bit stronger arm. So if Kyle's not going anywhere, we're not going to fire him. We need to maximize his coaching ability and let Trey do the things that clearly he wants to do. So for me, it becomes a no-brainer to play Trey next year.
It's fascinating because, and thanks, Jay. Appreciate it.
I appreciate it, Jay. I'm right with Jay. I'm in lockstep with Jay. Boy. I mean, you traded all those picks to get him.
Yep.
You got him, and you gave him the gig. You didn't even think twice about, let's make it a competition. Let's keep Jimmy. Let's have it be a competition. And even when you couldn't get rid of Jimmy, when no one wanted him and you were stuck with him, you still had Jimmy on a side field. You didn't want Trey threatened at all by Jimmy Garoppolo. And Trey, it's your job. Go do it. And the results were a little bit mixed early. We didn't see enough of a sample to really judge it.
Sure.
5 quarters of football. He breaks his ankle. He's gone. Jimmy, turns out we need you. Come on in and do the gig. And I don't think that changes how you feel about Trey. I don't think they feel any worse about Trey Lance based on the fact that he got hurt.
No. I don't think they feel any worse about him with what happened during the season. You know, my read on the fact that Jimmy Garoppolo was still on the team had a lot to do with how they were feeling about Trey in the offseason. There was a confidence there, or lacking, I should say. There was a confidence that they wanted to be there that wasn't there in Trey Lance. I can feel, and I see it on our YouTube chat. I know a lot of you, and I knew this, by the way, going into this conversation. Many of you are going to turn this into a Jimmy and Trey thing, and who's on what team. I'm not on Team Jimmy, and I'm not on Team Trey. I am a 49er fan, and this is not about Jimmy and Trey. This is about, and I promise you, this is what the locker room was feeling at the beginning of the year. This is about whether a team that has Christian McCaffrey and Trent Williams and Deebo Samuel and Brandon Ayuk and George Kittle and Fred Warner and Nick Bosa and Jimmy Ward and Charvarius Ward. It's about whether or not that roster should be given a young player at quarterback. I have reached that question, and I have reached the point where I think the answer is no. So that doesn't make me Team Jimmy. That makes me Team Veteran. That makes me Team Proven Quarterback.
Right.
So,
right.
And by the way, Jimmy's very flawed. So that person might not even be Jimmy. And to your point, if he's going to command $35 million on the open market, then the answer is hell to the no.
Of course.
So I hope that helps all of you understand this is not about being Team Jimmy. This is about being Team Proven Quarterback.
Right.
Because the rest of your team is proven and ready. And I think that many of them correctly are not wanting to go through the process of, well, let's be patient and let's see if this works out. Nobody wants to do that, and they shouldn't have to.
They want to win, and I don't think that having an unproven quarterback automatically means you're going to lose games. Now, we could look at the one game he started, the 2 games he started, actually, one of which he didn't finish, but he still gets credit for the win. So Trey Lance goes 1-1 as a starter this year. I don't think you can look at Trey Lance and say, well, if he starts next year, we're not going to win games. I don't think that any of them feel that, and I don't think that we as fans can accurately look at that and say from A to B, that's where this goes. Now, whether or not the veterans think that a veteran quarterback gives them a better chance to win, that's up to the locker room to decide. And ultimately, that's not their decision to make. It's a Kyle Shanahan decision. And he already made that decision in my mind. He's already telling them, look, I think that Trey Lance gives us the best chance to win, and therefore that's what I'm going with.
Right.
And if they don't believe that, then we might get a situation where the locker room's divided.
So would you believe your boss? He's like, look, here's what we're doing. This is our guy. I don't want any question about it. And then 2 weeks later, he's like, oh, by the way, now we're going to keep the other guy around. Is everybody okay with that? Do you believe your boss? Does your boss sound convinced?
Depends on how I feel about the boss going in.
Yeah, I get it, but
and
their
Mark,
behavior.
I've worked for so many different stations, and I've had so many different bosses, and there are bosses, and I'm not trying to curry favor with look, but I have more faith in our current boss than I've had in virtually every other boss I've had. He's had to earn it over the 4 or 5 years that he's been here, and he has earned it. I've had bosses in the past in whom I would not have had that same level of faith. So to your point, and you're absolutely right, for Kyle Shanahan to go back to them and go, guys, by the way, Jimmy, have you noticed Jimmy on the side field? Well, Jimmy's going to be staying around. We're keeping Jimmy. Are you guys cool with that?
Listen,
if he has that equity already built up, and I think that he does in that locker room, then it's more okay than if it was like Tom Sula or Chip Kelly who tried to foist that.
I want to tell everybody right now, like, if there is an option A on how this all plays out, okay, and this is to me, it's that Jimmy Garoppolo's on a different team next year and that Trey Lance is the starter, but he has to win. See, that's the point I've gotten to.
Trey has to win.
I do not want to be told, be patient. No,
you can't be patient
not with this roster.
Team. Exactly.
I
agree with you.
Do not take me through, Journey, we're going to pet you on the back of the head. And
shout out Penny.
It's going to, no.
We're not petting the QB.
Answer's no.
Heavy petting?
I'm fine. Well, that's the, okay. I'm fine. You made the move to leave Jimmy, and I get it. And I was supportive of it. But with this roster, and now because of the way this played out, then you kept him, then the other guy got it, and then Trey gets hurt, and now we're here, and you have I think, as they would say on PFF or wherever the hell this 66% chance we're heading to January with Jimmy again. So now we're going to do this.
Jimuary.
Thank you. Now we're going to do this again, and now you're going to tell me again that no, I got a better idea next year, and then you're going to do it. If you do that and you get to September and the 49er organization gives us, well, be patient. We got a young player here. Stop it. No, that's not okay. That's not okay.
I agree with you there.
Okay?
I absolutely, I'm with you 100% in lockstep.
Team Trey, but he has to win right away now.
And this becomes a Kyle Shanahan issue. And this is why I said this was a Kyle Shanahan year, because he made that decision. Kyle Shanahan looked at Trey Lance and thought, even in his infancy in the National Football League, I believe he gives us a better chance to win. So the team ultimately has to go along with what the coach decides to do, unless you want to go full mutiny, and this team has not gone full mutiny. So he said, Trey Lance is my guy, and Trey Lance got hurt. So looking at next year, if he again says to the team, guys, this time I mean it, Trey Lance is the guy, Trey Lance is going to guide us, and Trey Lance is ready, they have to have faith in the head coach. If not, we got problems.